Let's get the app going. Okay, I was really hoping to monitor comments live here, but it's just super delayed over here, so I'm just gonna have to assume we're all good. Here we go. Give me 1 second. Perfect. There we go. Okay. Well, welcome. If you guys are watching, thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is James. You might have seen me on YouTube occasionally. I'm otherwise known as Major OSC. But Modal is my new home, and we're going to be going through a lot of cool stuff today. Yeah. So I'm going to get the jitters out of here. I was hoping to just take some initial questions, trying to get an idea of who's here and what everybody is looking to learn today. I had a couple of things in mind regarding sound design, and let's see. There we go. I got live comments. Awesome. Please bear with us. Yeah. At the end of this, I am going to I'm going to post on Facebook a bunch of patches that I'll be going through, and then we're going to be creating some as we go. So hopefully you got a synth in front of you, either a Cobalt or an Argon. Some of this stuff is going to be pretty universally applicable, and some of it might be specific to the Argon. But fortunately, there's 4 days or maybe 5 of live streaming. So some days we'll be on Argon. Some days we'll be on Cobalt 8. It'll just depend. But, yeah. Let's see here. I wanted to go over a couple of kind of fun little tricks. I would assume everybody here is familiar with the app, but if you're not, definitely get the app. The app makes sound design on the Argon and the Cobalt it's a game changer. It's so much better. And it really helps you understand how this is working. And right here, this is your bread and butter for both synths, really. This is where all the action happens. This bold bar right here would be your mod, your mod sources and your mod destinations, and it's an extremely fast workflow. So let's start out simple. I'm going to initialize a patch here, and probably turn on local again because I was just in Ableton Live. There we go. All right. I'll man up in headphones here so you don't hear my mic or hear me feeding back. There we go. And just post up if sound levels are should be better in one or the other. I think let's make a pad. I'm going to teach you a little trick with Aftertouch, which is fun. We all know the score of Blade Runner, Vangelis and whatnot, and that really nice kind of legato pad that he uses. Of course, he's using a CS80, which is about $30,000 these days, and Poly Aftertouch. But you don't necessarily need that because there's a little trick you can do to get that same effect, and it doesn't require you holding a note down. And I'll explain more in a second here, but we're basically going to make a saw wave. Make a soft attack like that. There we go. And this is the mod matrix destination you're going to be using. Aftertouch. FEG attack. Okay. Now, what is this going to do? Well, when we press down on the Aftertouch, it is actually going to reduce the attack on the filter. So the idea is to make a really, really long attack. Holding down a note, it would just take forever to actually reach. But as soon as you press down, on Aftertouch, this attack essentially is reduced, and it gives you the illusion that you're actually just doing this, which is Aftertouch to cutoff directly, right? The problem with this Aftertouch to cutoff is as soon as you let go, it's kaput, right? And that's not really the ideal thing to do. What am I? We lost stream here. Everything just blacked out. Oh well. Oh, there we are. And yeah, so this, what I'm about to show you is sort of an alternative way, so you can let go of the note. The note will continue to stay on, but it'll dial back on the filter and it'll close a lot slower. So depth you're going to want at max, right? Actually, we're going to want this to be linear because we're going to want the longest. Shh. Oh, great! I probably should have locked the dog up. Oh, the one loose end. Hey, come here. Great. I'm sure she'll just be barking and ruin the show. Come here. I have a boxer and she's quite defensive. Come here. Okay, so please hold for a second. We'll take care of this. All right. Oh, epic start. Oh, FYI, there are Modal employees in the chat, so if you have technical questions that you've been wanting to ask and haven't sent us anything yet, on the support, post up, and it'll actually be pretty helpful if there's other people wondering that same thing. If you have sound design questions, then yeah, post up too, and I'll try and keep an eye out for those. So, yeah, here we go. Okay. There we go. Would want a little bit of a longer one. Okay. You know what? All right, so you basically make the FEG attack dialed into the negative quite a bit. And that way you have a bit more control over, bringing it in. So you can add a little bit of spread. Also keep in mind, if you're only using a couple of notes, if you're not going to be doing gigantic chords, here's a great thing to do. Set your voice to stack 2. Crank up that width and put your drift up, maybe halfway. The whole thing comes to life. You don't have to use any effects, really. Get a nice stereo image. All right, so I'll do one. I'm going to just press down the keys without giving any aftertouch here. And then I'm going to press them down and give full aftertouch. Big difference, right? So, and the depth isn't even all the way up. That would be with it all the way up. So. Yeah. Let's see. I'll teach you a couple other things here about making pads. Okay, so let's say we want to make something unique, not just a basic saw wave. Let's think of something else here. Let's go what I call wavetable surfing, or I'm sorry, wavetable fishing, or hunting. You're basically going through. Yeah, I'm getting really bad stream too. Hold on a sec. Somebody just messaged me notifying me that we're getting a really slow stream. I'll try a couple things to fix it here real quick. Okay. This might fix it. Hopefully it will. All right, stand by, guys. Oopsies. Well, at least it's not that delayed like it was before. Okay. I'm really trying to find comments here. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to have to go off of Messenger here. Okay. So what I do is I go through here, and you're basically just listening for textures and timbres that you like. Reduce the attack on your amp envelope. It's a little bit easier. Or just and bring up all your cutoff here. I'm going to also bring back the release. So for this kind of thing, I like to hear what each of them offers in full. So I'm going to set LFO 1 to move around the wavetable. Wavetable 2 specifically. And I'm going to set it right in the middle. And in theory, this should be going down and up. Let's set that back to 0 and check. Pretty much, yeah. It's just about going edge to edge. You can move it a little bit quicker. Now just cycle through. Find one that you like. Really like that one. Okay. LFOs, let's just talk about those real quick. For pads, pads are probably the most common use for using the free mode in LFOs. So don't be afraid to turn that on and put a little bit of modulation on various parameters and give it movement. That's pretty 101, basic 101 stuff, but it definitely helps. Another thing is your mix. I don't necessarily like to mix with it in the middle like this. I tend to start on one side or another and then use a mod envelope or, usually a mod envelope, occasionally velocity or something like that to kind of dictate how far it goes to one side or another. So basically it's like dictating how far or how much you're bringing in the other side. So one of them sometimes serves as a transient or kind of the introductory sound, and then the rest, the body of it is faded in, gradually. So that's something we could probably do with the mod envelope in this example. And we could also use that same aftertouch trick for the attack on the mod envelope. So let's do that. I'm going to program that ahead of time. You're not going to really hear it immediately, but oh man, I have no way to monitor this live stream. I really wish I could. Oh man, okay, really bad quality streaming, and I'm not sure why. Let's try cutting this out. Okay. Anybody online, let me know how it's looking now. I'm going to try and get this stream smoothed out here. Bear with us. Easiest way to monitor it is actually on my other computer. And there we go. I'm going to reduce the quality on my end for my streaming, just so I don't eat up bandwidth. Okay, good. I'm seeing people reporting a steady stream over there. That is fantastic to hear. There we go. Okay. And I can see comments again. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to minimize or maximize this window here. Almost done, guys. Don't worry. There we go. Okay, excellent. There we go. Okay, yeah, somebody's commented on importing custom wavetables. Yeah, that would be great. The thing is, they have so many bases covered. I have not even felt the urge to. I haven't felt the urge to want to import my own wavetables, and importing good wavetables is really the trick. So, you know, I'm sure that's something that might be looked at in the future. But right now, I'm, you know. The whole reason I'm going through this is to kind of show you how you can kind of turn one wavetable into kind of a hybrid of you know, different ones. You make basically your own little wavetable using modulation, or what sounds like your own wavetable. How are we looking for quality here? Okay, good. Looks like we're back up. Right, where were we? So we had LFO1 doing a little bit of movement, right? Here's the thing about that. Unless it's very, very audible, this right here might actually get drowned out by the rest of the stuff that we're about to do. So I'm actually going to turn this into mod envelope. All right, I'm going to increase that release now, and we're going to have it be a linear envelope also. And we're going to also have it reduce the attack on the, oops, we don't want the AEG, we want MEG. Oh, right, okay. So since I'm using the mod envelope, I'm actually pulling this back down to 0. And that means it's going to be it's basically going to be moving this wavetable all the way up. And then when I let go of the note, this release is going to be quick enough, hopefully, to hear it kind of contract back down. So it kind of does both. Okay, cool. Oopsies, that's not what I wanted. Do you hear how that release pulls in right away and kind of closes it right back off? We do not want that. We want it to stay open for at least as long as the amp envelope is. So the release is really crucial, especially with pads. Kind of make it special. Let's take stack off so we can do some big chords. Poly, I'm going to bring the width back down to a realistic level here. Right, I didn't show you the fun part here. Okay, so on this filter envelope, right? If you have it coming back down to 0 sustain, right? You're going to end up right there on the filter. Right there. From here, we can adjust it so it's somewhat audible. You know, that sounds about right. I'm going to bring the width back a little bit. Okay. Here's the neat part, right? Let's get a second note in there. Now we got, you know, an octave of F, right? Lower and a higher octave. Well, with this on now, when I press another key, it's going to sound like Poly Aftertouch is engaged, but really it's just following this envelope, and we have a little bit more control over it. So. nifty, huh? So we just need to add maybe a little bit more movement and maybe make something out of this. Maybe some phase mod, or I don't know. A little bit resi, I don't really like that. Also, I like using this classic filter. Bear in mind, though, this is heavily taxing on much more. I would assume so on the DSP and what's going on the inside. And the only reason I mention this is because you can tell when you're doing some really quick stuff and like aftertouch, it is just a little bit less responsive than this one. So if you're going to be doing a lot of quick, aftertouch work or that kind of thing, just use standard. Otherwise, classic I think tends to sound a little bit better, a little smoother, just a little bit richer. I'll tell you what, here's another neat thing to do. We're going to work with my favorite sweep. But we're not going to hear it. We're going to actually just turn on oscillator mod. So what we do need to do is we need to get this timed accordingly. That release down a little bit. I'm trying to make some judgment calls here. Right, let's just hear how this modulation envelope on Wavetable 2 is doing. I think we need to have it go back down. And we need to make this travel backwards. No, it's not depth. Ah, there was our issue. Ha! Oops, wrong one. Sorry about that. Attack. So I must have misclicked. There we go. Now when I'm doing aftertouch, it's going to drastically reduce this and shoot it up and have this climb the wavetable, so to speak. In fact, we don't need much less. Phase mod might not work as well, but we could try ring mod. Or we could just keep it in the middle. You know what? Let's try two of them. I've never done that before. Oh, another thing. If you're working with pads, here's a new tip. Go to your effects, turn on ping pong delay. It's got the widest potential here for expanding your stereo field and your soundstage. Effects level, we'll bring it in the middle. Here's the thing about ping pong delay: if you don't have any staccato transient notes that are like a snap or hit or anything very distinguishable, and it's more of a legato kind of like gradual, bringing in the sound, the ping pong delay is not going to sound like a delay at all. Not how we think of it. It's still doing its thing, but it's going to just sound like a much wider feel. I'll give you an example here. There's without it. That's with full. For pads, ping pong delay is my best friend. I think it would be kind of neat if we have the mix, for the most part, dialed in for the saw wave, right? good spread, and then we have aftertouch. Perhaps bring in more of the harmonic sweep wave of Oscillator 2. Better yet, let's make it MEG, because MEG is, when we apply aftertouch, it's going to be functioning very similar. There we go, much smoother. And then remember, we haven't even brought our filter back yet. You hear it jump like that, we know we got a bit of a too steep of an attack too steep of a modulation on the aftertouch, affecting the attacks. Another thing, if you feel your sound isn't quite there yet as far as presence, try this. Just bring in some distortion, a little bit. Keep an eye on the patch gain too. Obviously, you don't need to blast it, but. Let's crank that release back up. There we go. I'm gonna make this linear because it's just way longer. If you want a longer release, linear is the way to go. I'll give you an example. Still pretty short, but expression pedal in here. There we go. Another thing, if you don't have an expression pedal, this is the kind of synth you should have an expression pedal with, because it does wonders for the sound. A lot of other things. So expression pedal to, let's try spread. You can bring the spread down a little bit now too. It's a very pleasing effect too when you're going from very focused spread, very little, to widening. So spread is something you could pretty much assign to a lot of different things, and the contracting and the widening of that is going to tickle your fancy or tickle your ears, as they say. Scanning for some questions here. Something that I'm going to have the mod envelope take care of also. Let's try that with spread. So the mod envelope will be jumping the spread up quite a bit. Yeah, nice. All right, here's where the fun begins. LFO2, we're going to have LFO2 just sputtering away. And I think we're going to have it working with either the res or the morph, one of the two. Res. So let's have LFO2 do some wacky stuff here. There we go. It's not doing what I thought it would. Okay, that's more like it. compared to LFO1, and this is why I bring this up. The LFO2 is a polyphonic LFO. LFO1 is a global LFO. So if I bring in these notes at slightly different times, they're going to have the LFO starting at different intervals as well, and you're going to get much more chaos. So here's with all the notes pressed at the same time. And here's with them pressed at different times. Might need a bit more of a drastic example here. There we go. Okay. Oh, you know why? It's because it's on free. Sorry. Yeah, retrig makes it poly. Sorry about that. When it's free, it's free. It's not attached to any notes. That's my bad. There we go. Still not doing that. There, that's more like it. Okay. How are we looking? I heard the video's choppy. Sound is decent. Somebody post up, what kind of patch would you like to see next? I'm sort of like taking requests. You want me to go through a few that I already made and review, or create? Review or create? What should we do? You guys post up. Post up your vote. Hold tight. I can't monitor live chat for some reason. Again. Yeah, this is turning into quite a show. Okay. All right, good. A rip and lead. Oh, perfect. That was in the schedule anyways. Yes, a lead. This trick I'm about, it's not really a trick. I keep saying trick. This is great. Well, first let's just save this as something new. Preset manager, I'm going to save it as 240. I just hit save and I keep pressing plus. I get to 240. I'm going to call this stream Monday. There we go. Okay, this is much more exciting. First thing, this is not an init patch. I know I called it init, but it's not. There we go. The aftertouch vibrato is like crucial on a screaming lead. Well, at least the kind I like. And easiest way to get that is, well, you can use LFO1 or LFO2. I think you might be, if you want to save space and all these are taken up by other stuff. For example, if you were editing an existing preset, they're over here, LFO1 depth, you could use the joystick to cue in vibrato. So then you would essentially only have to use one slot, LFO1 to global pitch, right? That's the that's the easiest way of doing it. And then you just speed up keep the depth down to 0, speed up the rate. I don't really like reaching my left hand over all the time, so I'll use an extra slot and have aftertouch increase the LFO amount. And I like to use LFO2 because LFO1's a global, and I actually have that. Sometimes I have that just moving around with hard sync, which is another thing I like to add to leads. So aftertouch, LFO2 depth, and then change that to LFO2. Let's go the gnarly nar route. Let's do some like crunchy sort of dubsteppy craziness. Okay, another thing. Release, make that real short. Okay, we can have LFO2 moving around with one of the wavetables, so that way when we're giving it aftertouch, LFO2 is not only altering the pitch, but it's moving around some variables with the wavetables. Let's have aftertouch increase LFO2 rate. Let's get some unison here. Width. Okay, so what I just did is I made classic notch filter the choice and pushed up the morph about 50% and cranked the res. It's not always, it doesn't always work. Gotta find a sweet spot here. Let's have the mod envelope controlling some of LFO, I'm sorry, Wavetable 1. Yeah, it's a little bit brat, like kind of a soft attack. I don't really like that. Here's another thing you could play around the wave mods. Glide is another one. Keep in mind, as soon as you engage glide and you're in unison, it is going to pretty much convert it to like a legato envelope. What that would mean is that it'll end up wherever the sustain is, and that it'll be a one shot. Or maybe that it might just be for the. Pardon me. It might just be for the amp envelope. I cannot remember. Can find out pretty quick here. Yeah, see, it doesn't repeat every time. Turn this off. Just hold Alt and then click. You can hear the envelope firing every time. So just something to keep in mind. As soon as you turn it to glide, and that's typically how it is, it's gonna default to the legato one-shot envelopes, sort of, or single trigger envelopes. Then you have to like let go of all notes for it to fire again. Let's see. Let's try a different mod. Let's do aftertouch to ring mod. Oh, I'm sorry, oscillator mod. Actually, aftertouch is already queuing in vibrato, so let's pull off this. I'm going to reduce that so there's, you know, no depth in the LFO, just in case we're going to use it later. You know, set and forget it. Let's have the joystick do something. Still don't like that. Oh, right. You know what we're forgetting? Distortion. And I think instead, yeah, okay. I'm going to turn that back up, and I'm going to make this LFO1. So LFO1 is going to wiggle this around now. Okay, now next, MEG to Wavetable 2. Wow, I want to growl. This is more of a stylistic kind of judgment call you'll have to make, whether you want something slow, where it requires a longer note for it to reach its peak. Or if you want it, you know, slamming it up each time. I think it sounds a little bit more organic and kind of live when you're doing it a little, a little slower. The lower you go in these, the gnarlier it sounds. Okay, the filter's also our friend in this. It is fun to mess with the notch because it gives it a lot more personality, a lot more edge, more high end. We got one left. What are we going to do with it? Let's see. We got LFO1 in use. Hard sync really. Were we using it much? Yeah, we got it. Right, it's not going to... Okay, so here's another thing we can do. Let's try aftertouch. Well, if you had an expression pedal, you could do expression pedal and then to mix. So then you have like, multi-control. But if you don't have an expression pedal, it's no harm in, having aftertouch or one of the other joystick directions do that. So, but problem with that is if we're going negative Y to bring the mix up, this is going to bring the mix to the left side is going to allow us to hear the oscillator mod. Right? So we can't really have the oscillator mod modulating, or getting modulated by Y plus. We'd probably want them both Y minus. There you go. Then you can just adjust how far you want it to go of each. Do you want it to completely remove oscillator 2 and just go all, oscillator 1, or do you want it to mix them more evenly? And that'll depend on whether you pull this all the way down to the left, negative would be over here, or if you do about halfway, it should be ending up somewhere around there. I like the fifths. wrong way. Another thing to play with, if you're not using hard sync and you're using phase mod, try messing with the oscillator 2's pitch. Except for this one where, okay, I'll slow down here. When you're using phase mod, obviously it's going to be affecting oscillator 1. I would recommend staying over here and letting this be a silent influencer, unless it sounds really good. In this case it does, but sometimes it doesn't always. It's just a distorted mess. And that's a good point I meant to bring up earlier. If you're using phase mod, this is crucial. If you have this, the better the results you're going to have over here. And also be aware of the oscillator amount. Right now we have Y minus, just putting a very large amount of oscillator mod onto this. Let's just turn that off for now, right? And just turn on a static amount. Also, any movement in the wavetable like that, especially on wavetables that have drastic changes, is going to really mess with this. So, another good thing to do is, kind of get rid of as much movement on oscillator 2 as you can, or just subtle amounts. And then find a simple waveform. That's why I like sweep so much. Typically offers very kind of uniform. Let's find some harmony here. Another thing, if you're using phase mod, try starting out simple on the left side, because this is going to transform real quick. We still got something going on. There it is. We got that. And this is moving it around too. You know what? I'm just going to jump to an example. Sorry I didn't save this one. Trust me when I tell you, there's a lot of them that like the one I just designed. Feed Me Machine is probably my favorite. If it had a little bit more low end, it would be a fantastic bass. But all you really need to do is just, I don't know, boost up the low end on an EQ in your productions. All right, so here, as you can see, I have the mix far, panned hard to the left. It's using phase mod. I got a fixed amount here. The expression pedal is moving the wavetable here. It's not a huge difference, but it makes somewhat of a difference. And there's that spread I was talking about. Any movement and spread typically is very pleasing to the ear. It starts out dead simple, and then, actually it starts out high and then comes back down. Well, that's interesting. I don't remember having it like that earlier. It starts out spread out, and then it ends up contracting and coming back and sounding, a bit more full. Okay, so you might have noticed this, but if you increase spread, it sounds wider and a little bit quieter. So as you bring spread in, if you have modulation that's decreasing it, it will get a little bit more present, a little bit more centered. Are there any questions so far? I haven't really paid attention to the comments quite as much. Looks like some people are liking it though. not checked my Facebook messages, and my colleagues are messaging me. Yeah, which is what I'm doing. I'm checking the questions. Yeah, post up some questions. I'll find another preset here. If you're designing presets, one thing you can do is, if you like it at one point, save it, right? Work with a bunch of space. Save it as you go. That way you don't get lost in a new iteration and end up... oh, don't worry. All these pre-stream. In fact, I don't see why not. I could probably export them right now, but I don't want to burn up too much time. Yeah, everything you hear here are all going to be free for you guys to play around with. That's why I made a bunch of different copies of the Mean Machine. So if you like one of these and want to go ham with it, you won't necessarily, you'll have a bunch of different, directions to go. Turbo Phaser is a pretty fun one. One of the biggest struggles I have when I'm making these kind of gnarly presets is getting it to a point where I could use it as something other than just a low-end bass. Because the higher you go with a lot of these, the more they just sound like pissed off angry wasps. Or maybe a vocoded wasp. Legato and portamento question. Okay. Ryan Perplex about the giveaway. Oh, right. Right. Before I go through with these and talk a bit more about leads, there's a giveaway. We're giving away at least three modal T-shirts, and I believe we're giving away a craft or a sculpt. I can't remember, but it's a free synthesizer. And later this week, I think maybe Wednesday, we'll be busting out craft and sculpt and making some fun things with those little mini guys, because they are incredibly good synthesizers, especially for their size. But yeah, hit us up on Facebook if you haven't already. Like and subscribe to this channel while you're here. That'd be awesome. And plus, you'll get hit the bell notification, and you'll know when we go live tomorrow and for the rest of NAMM week. Yeah. So with somebody had asked about leads and portamento and glide and oh right, we're giving away craft synths. There we go, just confirmed. And I think I explained that earlier, but glide is a lot like portamento. It is portamento. It does automatically put it into legato. It forces legato. And that's kind of how it's used when you're talking unison. Obviously, when you're in poly, it doesn't. So with Mean Machine, I made a few more iterations. Basically, when you have this all set up and you got the stuff the way you like it, the really great thing about Argon 8 is you can just change the wavetables and drastically alter the sound and retain the characteristics of the patch that you like, especially the dynamics and the way it plays and stuff. Okay, V glide control is legato plus VE is portamento across all synth. Yeah, what he said. Okay, here's what I did with this one. As I mentioned earlier, if you crank up the voice beyond 1, so 2 and up, either unison, which is mono, or stack, which is polyphonic, until you run out of voices, You can crank the width, and it'll split the voices evenly. Drift is what really makes the big difference, though. As you can hear, it's two voices, but there's really not much stereo field as soon as you crank up drift. Much wider. Some more questions. Do you guys think we've covered enough of leads? Need feedback here. I'm only looking at YouTube, so anybody at Modal who's helping out in the stream, whatever Facebook thinks, let me know. Okay. You do Plucks. Enough of the leads for now. Okay. All right. Why don't we... I know what I could do. We could work with a little bit of Cobalt here. Anybody down for working with Cobalt? Just gotta redirect the MIDI here. Oh yeah, I guess we could just jam in Ableton and the Cobalt will be audible there. Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna get Ableton Live going here. How many of you guys use Ableton Live? Post up, just like type live or +1 if you use Ableton Live. Okay. Did I launch it? No, not yet. Okay. We're going to launch that and... Okay, some things to go over. You know what? I'm going to change the screen here so you guys can see the synth for a minute. I know it's kind of hard to see. If you're working in Ableton, or any DAW for that matter, you're going to want to scroll all the way down to the right on your, on your screen. Click back to UI and controls. Click the page parameter button once. This is in a modal minute, by the way, so you can look that up too. Keyboard local to off. All right. That's crucial. Nothing is going to happen when you press the keys, so just remember you did that so you don't freak out and think that something's broken. But for the new guys out there, essentially what's happening is you're sending MIDI, and then the MIDI's coming back and triggering your synth. Oops, I should probably mute myself on that. My apologies ahead of time if the stream is incredibly choppy. I really hope it doesn't consume all the CPU. Okay. So then you'd set up an external instrument and, arm it. An external instrument here, MIDI 2. So there's a bunch of different MIDI channels I'm setting to. Make sure you have your MIDI channel default to 1. And then whichever input you have, your Cobalt or Argon plugged into, you have audio from those inputs, right? So this is a template. It pops up, and just automatically have it. And yeah, I think I had something going here, but I'm not. I'm really hoping it plays. I've never tried streaming and live at the same time at this capacity. Yeah, so there might be some digital artifacts, and if we get too much of them, I'm just going to have to cut it. But apologies ahead of time if that's the case. Why don't we do something? Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. You guys are looking at the synth. I apologize. Yeah, I'm just going to have to be the full. Just a sec here. There we go. Okay, now you get the full screen. Some drums on the Argon 8. Oh, we could. Actually, that's not a bad idea. That'd be kind of fun. I haven't rehearsed anything, but sure, why the hell not? Let's try it. Now, I have MIDI. Oh, another thing. If you're working in a DAW, and you could probably, yet again, you can't see what I'm doing on the synth screen, but just make sure that on your MIDI settings you have, I apologize, on your clock settings, it's always, when in doubt, just match the tempo you're working in. You don't have to, but I find it, leads to a few less issues. Once in a while, you might have sync issues. Not everything plays, perfectly all the time. But yeah, I usually keep the clock source set to auto. But if you're using DIN MIDI, obviously you'd have it set to MIDI, or USB. You'd have it set to auto as well. So for this, I think there's a couple of ways of doing it. We could turn an arpeggiator on, right? So we'd have, something like that going, right? If that's the case, then we'd go into our app, and I would want to look at the keyboard and set something like, set it up to be random, right? And if we're making drum sounds, it's going to be pitch, pitch, pitch. It's going to be pitch modulation all day, every day. So we want to make a good envelope with our mod envelope, a good shape, right? So MEG to global frequency. Let's try. Here's another thing. If you really want it to be random sounding, get one of your LFOs. Get your one of your LFOs, preferably LFO2 and retrig, to do this, right? And then have that modulate your. I usually just match whatever arpeggiator I'm doing. Doesn't matter though. It's going to be different each time, no matter what. But just to be safe. Okay, yeah, have that match time, and then we'll modulate pitch ever so slightly to just give it a little bit more variation. Global. You could probably just hold one button at that point. Another thing you could do is have LFO2 modulate the AEG depth. Now you got random kind of polyrhythm. Okay, another one. You'll want to, if you're working with drums, well, synthetic drums, one is usually an oscillator, and the other one is noise. Let's turn this up a bit. Another thing we could do is do that same assignment, LFO2 to FEG depth. Slow it down a little bit. So that's how you would do kind of randomized percussion. But you could record just holding one note and then playing back. You could alter the wavetable a bit. LFO2 doing the depth on the envelope for the mod envelope. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds a... Try a different mod envelope type too. Yeah, I'm not getting the results I wanted. So thanks for the encouragement. Ooh, getting there now. Oh yeah, filter, right. Maybe not as much global frequency modulation. Yeah, oh well. So that's one way. Not the way I would normally do it. If I'm doing drums, I've only done it a few times when I'm creating it on a synthesizer, but I usually just set up white noise on one end. It's weird, it's still modulating. Okay, let's try that again. White noise on one end, and as I said earlier, sine wave on another end. And you have MEG and mix. There you go. Then you have MEG modulating the pitch. Oops. That's weird. Oh, you know what? Another thing to have it, so when you're holding a note, if the decay ends, the decay time is all done, and you're still holding the note, you're going to hear that constant note. You obviously don't want that, right? So what you could do is program LFO2 to alter the pitch slowly, so there's always a drop. So that's what we're going to do. I should probably let the dog back in, or dog out rather. Well, here's another thing, retreat. No, we don't want to get into that. There we go. You got synthwave drums. I'll be right back. 30 seconds, just gotta let this dog in. There you go, Poochie. Yeah, another trick you can do on any patch of any type, maybe not all of them, but any patch that has dynamics that you need a transient hit, have something triggering the distortion. And I cannot remember if MEG is allowed to yeah, MEG does that. Release will help them stay a little bit longer. And if you want to make them even bigger sounding, we're going to just increase the voice. Drift and width. I let the dog out. Why did she pop her head up? Yes, correct. Snap envelopes are excellent for drum sounds. Exponential work too. Oops. And you can use it on all of them. Some of them, I'm not even using the filter envelope in this one. I got too much reverb on this one. Excuse me. There. And modulation. So yeah, one exponential is one. Snap is a good one. Snap can get really characteristic too if you just add a tiny bit of attack. That's another way of doing it. Yeah, that's why sine wave typically works the best. There's not too much harmonics going on. So I think that could probably cover drums. What else, you guys? What should we do next? We did a little bit of pads in the beginning. You guys like Plucks? I could show you how to. If you guys want, I can do a sequence. I have a couple of sequences programmed in. Well, why don't I do a sequence and then we'll just use it with Ableton Live. That's probably, yeah, let's do that. Unless somebody has something specific they want to see. I'll save this. Okay, Plucks. We'll do Plucks, and then we'll turn the Plucks into a sequence. And those two just instantly make me think of Eric Prydz or Pryda. So I've been producing for quite some time now. I think I started seriously in 2006-ish with a Mac book, just a MacBook, not even a Pro, just a white one that I got from the Naval Exchange. And I got a couple of NI plugins, Korg Legacy Collection, and I was just obsessed with Progressive House because I had been DJing a couple of years, and that was right around the time where I thought I could make something better. So Eric Prydz was discovered him and Deadmau5 simultaneously around the same time frame when they were really blowing up, and so Plucks are like the thing I've been doing from the get-go, even before I would have labeled myself as somebody who designs sounds. I wanted to learn how to design Plucks. So I actually learned that on, for plugins, I learned that on, and then on hardware, I learned it on a Moog, Little Fatty. Learned a lot on that one. And, but yeah, the intricate sound design later with Dune. Okay, so Plucks, envelope is everything, is pretty much, that's the end all be all. I usually set the depth somewhere in the middle, because velocity, if you want to have a nice dynamic kind of interactive pluck that you can really perform with, that's going to be something you'll want, being able to modulate the filter depth. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. FEG depth. Bring the cutoff down to 0. Change this to a saw wave. So while we're at it, why don't I show you the difference between exponential and snap. So snap just has a bit more fatness up top, a little bit more kind of curve at the top, tip down, whereas exponential, really wish the pictures would change. That would be helpful. That's a request for some. right, so we sort of have a bass sound, right? But if we want it to be a pluck, we're going to add some release. Oh, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm probably triggering something else that I don't want to. There we go. I need to turn local back on. I apologize. There we go. Okay. Your release. Remember, as before, if you were on the stream, I was talking about release. If you have too short of a release, it's going to close out before this is fully done playing. Linear is always a safe bet because you're going to get longer release times naturally. If you're having a hard time getting getting it the way you want, try turning up the res while you're working with it, because it'll really give you a clear indication of how it's dropping, how fast it's dropping. Also, think to yourself, am I going to be holding these notes down, or am I going to be slapping them like, you probably can't see me on camera right now, but so I'll just switch back to that view real quick. App. Oh, right, because it's down there. Okay, so if you're going to be holding them down versus slapping them, that will alter the way these sound. Right? If you're letting go right away, it'll sound different than if you're holding them down. So think about your playing style, how you're going to be programming these, if you're programming them at all. All right, let's turn the res down. Okay, so as I showed you before, the velocity affecting FEG depth, that means when you're in your DAW and you're programming something in a MIDI clip, you can just save yourself some automation recording by being able to control the dynamics. See what I mean? I'm sorry about that. There you go. Another thing, spread. Reso down. That's a basic pluck right there. Everybody following so far? Okay. What else? Well, I'm double triggering again, sorry. Oh no, I'm just feeding back. There we go. Right, so we got a pluck. Here's one. Pretty similar to the one we just heard. Let's go to a sequencer and load a sequence. If you heard of a song by Prida called Milo, that's like all plucks. All he does is do a little riff, and then he lifts the filter from etc. And let's see if I can. Okay, so just need to get this down a little. Stream has ended. That's weird. Why is the stream ended? That's odd. Not stream hasn't ended, but I just got a notification that Facebook says that we're not streaming. Okay, either case. Tell you what, rather than showing you a sequence I made already that's actually commercial music, why don't we initialize from scratch? And in your case, it's going to look like this real time in the app. You're going to want to set it to step, and you're going to set it to at least 16, if not 32, right? There's a modal minute on this already, but as soon as you hit record, it's going to go step by step. So I'm just going to make something up here. I think that's 16. Stop record. I would want 1/8 notes instead of 16th notes, so I'd want to bring this down to 1/8. Okay, stop. This is a good way to fine-tune your plucks, because if you're not in a DAW at the time of, this is going to have the notes looking like this. And the two things you're going to want to focus on are the release on the amp envelope and the release and decay of the filter envelope. Since these are all long notes, I am going, well, they're at 50% gate. I wonder if I can't remember if the gate is affecting the sequencer. No, it's not. At least I don't think it is. Let's try again. Okay. I'm going to make a different sequence, by the way. Nope, that's not going to work either, is it? There we go. Okay. Yeah, see, these are all held for a long period. So in your DAW, when you're, or Ableton, when the notes are shorter and you're letting go of them, that's when release is gonna, the release timing is gonna make a big difference. Otherwise, for this instance, we're only dealing with decay. So that's really what you'd be fine tuning. I think it's a good balance to have both. So, when you're recording in your DAW, don't make them all the same length. Another thing you can do is with your keyboard, in your keyboard tab, or no, it's in your settings tab. You can configure it so the sequencer actually sends the MIDI that's being programmed, and that's right here, ARP sequencer out. You can set it to ARP, sequencer, or both, right? So, in theory, as soon as you arm this and record it, it's going to be playing the MIDI notes that we just recorded. To make things even easier, what you can do is have your transport triggered while you're, which means it starts the sequencer while when the DAW play button gets triggered. It can be handy, but I don't like to keep it on for the most part, because another thing you can do is just hit the play button and do your best to time it well. And like I said, you can always go in and correct the MIDI. So make a bunch of these real quick. And can you even see what I'm doing? Yeah, you can. Just let me get rid of the, oops. Normally I'd have a controller, but it didn't arrive in time in the mail. Oops, we're not in the app though. Okay. Okay, this. I'm just going to hit play as soon as it starts. Should be in there. Sure enough, there it is. I'm going to turn off preview with this little headphone thing. Shorten these notes. Oops. And I'm going to bring them all down one octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. Go back into the app now. Well, let's set this to loop. Oopsies. know, just throw LFO tool in there. Oops, that's not how you spell LFO, is it? There we go. Boom, magic. Well, of course, we're feeding back through where? It's because we're on Mixer. Let's try. You guys, okay, you should be able to hear me fairly decent. Although I'm probably sound like I'm in an echo chamber. There we go. I like to have a little bit audible when it initially hits. Can also time it a little different. Build one while it's playing, shall we? That's weird. Looks like the app's not. What's going on here? Oh, I'm gonna have to do it this way. It's odd. Okay, let me get out of this mode here. Okay, we have winners for the thingamajiggy. Sorry, guys. I don't mean to expose company things here, but all right, the winners. T-shirts. Marcus Rappin, Wolf Cry, and Benoit Dubuc. Sweater. QRDNK from YouTube, and Marek Grove Hajek from Facebook. And the person who wins the craft synth, Peepo's Garage. Congratulations, guys. You all need to email marketing@modalelectronics.com with a size and shipping address for us to send to you. And yeah, congratulations. And just post up in the comments if you have any questions in addition to that. No Cobalt in this session. Oh, let's do Cobalt. Why not? We can do Cobalt. I'm in Ableton Live, and I love Cobalt, and I think that's perfectly fine. We got at least a half hour left. Yeah. So let's jump into Cobalt here. I'm turning local off on this. I'm sure you all recognize that patch. I need to get that. Let's see, we're in the regular Cobalt. That's off to my left here. Whoops. So that would be this one. So, okay, for those of you who are wondering, what I'm doing here, I described on a video, but I'm not running the VST. The video was about running a VST while you're also controlling MIDI, or rather running the VST without having to run into issues with MIDI control, because in Windows it's one or the other. You can't really have USB doing the app as well as MIDI control in your DAW. So everything on this setup, all these synths, they go in through DIN, traditional 5-pin MIDI, and the USB functions specifically for the app. So I run the app externally. and it's sort of harmonious, best of both worlds. And I always have these available. I don't even have to necessarily be in the window, and be limited to one VST. So that's why I do it this way. It's personal preference. On the Mac, I would imagine it's a little bit more flexible because you can use multiple instances of things with USB, or USB can be used for more than one thing. So I think I have designed some custom ones for this that I'd like to be able to share. Okay, here's a good one. This one, I made a pad, and it's got a lot of resonance. And as you can see right in here, I have note dialed all the way up for cutoff, so that it's going to have harmonics for every note. So in this case, it's a fifth. If I move the filter, it's going to throw that off. Now it's the same, it's octave. Now it's a fifth, even higher. Weird, it should be following it, and it's not. It might be because we have modulations elsewhere. Okay, well, anyways. What's something I could show you guys on this? Cobalt sounds so cool. Here's one I made, 3D polysynth. There's a caveat to this one that some people might not even notice, depending on how you play this. The reason I call it 3D polysynth is because it actually modulates FX mix. So FXC is FX3C would be the feedback. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the Y plus. Where is the other one that it's modulated? There we go, FX1A. There it is, right there. That's 1A, right? FX1, A, B, C, D, E, F. LFO1 you can set to a single trigger envelope, right? And right there, see, single free retrig. And so every time I press a note, it opens up and closes the chorus. Actually, I believe it actually closes the chorus briefly and then allows it to come back. And this way you get a punchy sound without any chorus. And then the chorus comes in afterwards. Let me double check that. Yeah, because this is maxed out, so as you can see. And so LFO1 is pulling this down briefly, and then, it's starting here essentially, and then bringing it back in. Now, if we remove that, as you can see, it kind of loses its bite. When you have full chorus, it's sort of lifeless. I mean, it sounds cool for pads. Start playing Top Gun. But yeah, so what I did is essentially had FX1 get muted partially in a very smooth manner as soon as you trigger it. So if you hold down the note, you get a nice long, especially long ones, you get this much wider space, and it's sort of like a pluck pad. Here's one I can go over. Were there any questions on that? I don't think there's much of a lag in the comments, so if you got any, post up. Okay, let's move on. There we go. In the 50s, there's quite a few of mine. No, it's not anticipation. We were just on it earlier. Phase breaker. There we go. This is a very complex patch, and I'm not going to try and explain all of it. A lot of it was this came from 2 hours worth of tinkering with LFOs, LFO timing, LFO depths, as you can see, LFO2 rate, LFO3 depth, LFO1. Well, that's about it actually, but one thing tends to affect another. And yeah, there's just a lot of lifting going on. I think there's another one where it's just about as crazy, but maybe that didn't make the cut. I don't know. Where is it? Oh, here's you know what? Let's go over this one first. So this one has a nice long decay, linear envelope, and it's one of my favorite filter modes in this, which is balanced phase. It really make this thing sound crazy. So you have one of them doing, one of the LFOs is doing eighth notes, kind of going that. The other one's doing sort of like a sidechain thing. Or I'm sorry, it's, what are we doing here? LFO2. Oh, it's moving the mix back and forth, and then 1/4. Yeah. And then you have the dotted quarter notes doing kind of moving the filter back up as well. God, when did I design this one? I can't even remember. So anyways, when you have multiple things assigned to the filter, you can really get a lot of neat stuff going on. The idea is you have one long-timed, modulating factor, which is usually an envelope, and then have one doing fast notes and one doing small intervals, but somewhere in between. And that's essentially what this is. This right there, LFO1 is affecting the... I must have removed that. That should be FX2A. Oh, it's already there. Weird. Oh, we got an empty slot. What should we do? There we go. I like that much better. Let's just hit save, and then we'll send that to Modal. And Modal, you guys over at HQ, you can update that one, put it in the rest of them. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Maybe I should move this back, eh? There we go. I can kind of see what I'm doing. Let's make one from scratch so you can see. The one thing you're going to want to do when or if you get your Cobalt, is go through the different algorithms, because there's a lot to them. Also, if you, for example, have a little bit more of a funds, consider also getting another Cobalt M and just double your voices for everything, because this thing sounds fantastic in stack mode. And being that I'm working for Modal, I've got two, or actually I could stack three, and maybe we'll do that for another live stream. Just stack three of them and make some kind of monster pad. But yeah, just like I showed you before, crank the width, not the glide, sorry, and the drift. And we're limited to 4 voices. That's the only downside. And that's why you'd want a second one in daisy chain, because you can daisy chain these. Yeah, so something to consider. But yeah, when you first get them, go through these different algorithms. And it's basically, that was the first few weeks of me when I owned this, or when I got this. Start out with something basic. Use your spread right here. And as you can see, stuff gets crazier the farther you go into these, you know, all the way up till noise. Another thing you can do, you can make a rhythm out of that. Have an LFO just tapping away. I believe one of the presets already does that, but you know what? Let's just have some fun. Let's make LFO 2 do something like that. And let's have it do 16th notes. And that will be oscillator 2B, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, wait, 2B, I believe. Yep. There it is. Now, what if we could control the depth of it? Well, we can. What are some ways to do that? Aftertouch is one. So LFO 2 depth. If we want to have a little bit, if we want to have sort of like a polyrhythm going, you know, if we want it to sound like drumsticks. We're getting reverb from one of the channels. Sorry. There, let's try that now. There we go. Hold tight, guys. I just want to make sure the levels are good. There, it's better. That might be kind of fun. Let's do that. LFO 2, we'll have it messing with the cutoff too. Oh, I'm already sounding like Deadmau5 already. He's got a song called Pets. It's basically what this is, except needs to be a little bit faster in tempo. Yeah, that's it. If we go further into these, all sorts of crazy stuff. Why don't we take another LFO and do something fun, like oscillator 1A. That's LFO 3. Oh, weird. Why is it doing that? There we go. Of course, I'm going to want ping pong delay because that's just lots of fun. Might be one of the rare instances I actually use the internal reverb. Tricky to work with because it's got a very, very bright sound to it. I'm gonna hold off on that. All right, we still got LFO 1 to work with. Why don't we have that doing something with the res? No, that's not gonna be fun. Let's do something different. All right, let's see. I was thinking of getting my 2 Cobalts. Go for it, man. Any questions so far? I haven't been checking these as much as I should. Polychain works great. The only downside is the effects don't affect the other one until you save the patch and reload it. That was the only drawback that I know of. Okay. I'm not sure how much further I want to go on this, but let's go further into these waveforms. There we go. Balanced phase. There we go. That's sort of like the one we were reviewing earlier. You don't want it to sound too clumsy and too out of control. Just be careful how much you're modulating the filter by. If you go overboard, it just sounds like an old school 8-bit video game. Especially if you do this. Okay, you get the idea. What are we on? We got 10 minutes left. What do you guys want to do? As we go over another patch. Maybe I got something new I can show you. Bank 0. Is this the M? No, I'm working on the 8 that I had for a while, so this should have a couple of my new ones. There's Mason. Nope, that's not one. Oh, here's a good pluck. FX riser. Oh yeah. Can't remember if it was me or Camille that did this one. Camille does exactly. Camille is Alpha Code Synth, one of the sound designers for the Cobalt. Big fan of his. I actually ran into him on YouTube before we were on the same team, and was just blown away by some of his stuff. It's on YouTube if you want to check him out. Oh yeah, here's a bit. This is probably the closest to the Argon 8 as the Cobalt will get. And even now it's still just like an analog algorithm with square waves. By the way, that's pronounced chopu, and that's a famous surf wave. Fun fact, I do not surf whatsoever, but I have been to, when I lived in California, I'd gone to so many different beachside bars. When I was on Liberty, time off, and they always had surfing videos playing, so I ended up, something I like to do is watch surf documentaries, and it's one gnarly ass wave. So that's a good tip. That's a good tip to close out with is, if you're looking for inspiration, don't just look for music, look for visuals. If you're watching something, for example, like YouTube, and you got the sound turned off, you would not believe what that does to your brain to get you into, I don't know. I can't really describe it, but I know if you know anything about what you're doing in this app, or at least to some degree, I think you will start to make different decisions unconsciously, because you might have something visual off to the side. So try that. That's fun. Let's see. I see a lot of comments. I'm sorry. Okay, newbie question. Can I save an existing patch with modifications into a new slot without affecting an existing patch? Yes, but you need to make sure you have an open slot. One thing you can do is you can go through, when you first get it in the app, and let's say you don't like Big Bod song. Well, you suck, because that's one of mine. If it's not to your liking, you hit init, right? Hit save, and then just type in init, or even easier would be zeros, because then you can spot it like out of anywhere, right? And don't worry, I have these backed up, so that way, whatever the one that you want to alter is closer. Maybe you like it set there instead with more res. And you want it to be louder and with less effects. Shit, I like that better. Hit save. Now this is, you're ready to name it. Double click there, type in your name. Better FX, or let's just not say better, let's say my FX. And then go to your preset manager, double check the number that you want to save it to. That's 397. Just hit 397 and save. And now your effects, your version of that patch is not too far away. A long version would be is if you have an entire bank of unused sounds. You know, you could ahead of time grab, you know, think about it. If you really like a patch and you're like, this is something I want to edit, like B. Lazar, which I named after Bob Lazar because UFO documentaries are just about as fun as surf documentaries. You just click and drag this, and then you'll see it'll bring you into bank 4, and then you select the one, you know, whatever init patch you want it to be in. And that way you don't have to click, you know, hundreds of slots up when you're ready to save it. It's already there. And then, so when you're done editing this, you can just hit save and rename it, or, you know, however you want to do it. So, let's see. I have an Argon 8. Love it. Blah, blah, blah. I think it deserves a brother, sister. Yeah. Buy 2. That's the lesson of today. Buy a second one. I think tomorrow I'm going to, just for fun, I'll pair up like 3 Cobalts and daisy chain them all. It's like, it is possible. And they get their own mixer. It's actually, it's an old Mo2 interface that I have fooled into thinking it's in interface mode, and I just have it in live monitor, and so it's now an 8-channel mixer that goes into 1 channel of my actual DAW. Drag and drop. Wasn't aware of that. Yes, that's a good one. Let's see, Pipeline Master, another surf one. Yeah, okay, maybe the closing one, just give you a few closing tips in case you can't make the streams later this week. Aftertouch, utilize it. It is your friend. If you are using an M and you don't have a keyboard with Aftertouch, consider getting something different. And Christian actually knows, who's the head of marketing at Modal, knows of a brand, a new Poly Aftertouch keyboard that it's quite portable. It's very low profile and it feels good. We're trying to get our hands on a sample so we can demo it using the Cobalt 8, because the Cobalt 8 and as well as the Argon both allow Poly Aftertouch in MPE mode, and it works very, very well. Very well. It sounds fantastic, and I really wish I had saved that video, because right around the time of the Cobalt launch, I did a complete recreation of the opening to the new Blade Runner 2049. I played the whole thing and had Poly Aftertouch and whatnot. But, okay, any more questions? When using Reset, do you lose your user patches or sequence? Reset? Oh, you know what? That's a good technical question that one of our modal experts will probably answer. Yeah, but they should stay. They should be intact. Yeah, I think this probably wraps up today. We're approaching 2 o'clock. A couple minutes left. Anybody got anything? Where'd everybody get their Cobalt or Argon from? Post up in the comments if you would. Always curious to know where people are sourcing them from. Yeah, the MPE controller will be covered later this week. Fantastic. I really hope it. It should be arriving pretty soon. We requested a sample. Obviously, it's like promotion for them, free. Midnight Wave. The great thing about you know what? I'm going to close up by saying this. The great thing about the Cobalt and Argon both is that they're like, if you've already gotten familiar with one and you really like it, getting the other one is just, it's like having vanilla cake and chocolate cake if you love cake. And you already know how to use it. And it'll just feel familiar, but they are two completely different beasts. I cannot stress that enough. I'm so back and forth. I'll go into Cobalt mode and I'll just think this is like modern aged analog because it sounds to me like analog and it behaves a lot like it in some aspects. But then the Argon 8, I'd have to say I'd give it credit for having a wider palette because it can do analog sounds. So don't discredit the Argon 8. If you're at a music store and they don't have Cobalt but they have an Argon 8 and you'd be potentially happy with one and you're just kind of don't hesitate. Let me give you an example here. Let me find my jump patch that there's jump. That's definitely not jump. Sorry about that. Let's try a different one here. Oh, you know why? It's because we're playing the Cobalt 8. So that probably was jump. And we're just I don't have local turned on. I'm not going to play jump for you though. Don't worry. I won't subject you guys to that. Yep, there it is. All right, we should probably close down live then. Right? Does that not? You get that sound by just turning up the feedback and doing a little bit. Oh, you guys are seeing me like streaming in OBS. Turn up the feedback and just this much glide, 6. And well, there's quite a bit more to it, but I'll add it in the patch, in the little patch bonus thing that I'm going to put out here at the end of the stream. And unless there's any last minute question, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for attending. I'm really sorry about the earlier part of this stream. It was completely rocky and quality was probably questionable. Don't worry, I'm not playing it any more jump, Steven or Stefan. And I think tomorrow it's going to be a little bit smoother, and we'll have a bit more music for you. And I think we'll sign off. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And congrats to